A new Supreme Court justice is confirmed. The bodies of aborted babies are given a proper burial in Washington, D.C., and Holy Week is approaching. We'll cover that and more on today's Crisis Weekly Wrap-Up. Today is April 8th, 2022, and I'm Eric Sammons. So one of the top stories this week was that Ketanji Brown Jackson was confirmed as a Supreme Court justice by the Senate, a vote going 53-47. Now, if you just looked at the headlines of the media for this story, you would think the only thing of at all interest about Judge Jackson is the fact that she's a Black woman. That's all that's being talked about. That's the only thing that mattered. And in fact, President Biden, when he picked her, he explicitly stated he was picking her because she was a Black woman. And so you would think they just grabbed a Black woman off the street and just say, okay, come on in. We're gonna make you the Supreme Court justice, which is a disservice to Judge Jackson herself for being considered like this. But that's the state of where we are right now. Now, of course, the most famous thing about her confirmation hearings is when she was asked to define what a woman is, and she said she couldn't do that. She's not a biologist. And so what has happened is our country has elected to the highest court in the land somebody who can't even recognize reality right in front of her face. She can't even say what she is, because obviously she's a woman, which is, of course, the irony of this is that they made such a big deal about the fact she's the first Black woman to ever be made a Supreme Court justice, but they can't even say what a woman is. And so the whole lies of the left just comes crashing down with all this. But it is unfortunate. I'm sure she will be a terrible justice because President Biden picked her. I'm sure she will often vote on the left side of the aisle. And I think this is just kind of not surprising that we can count on Democratic presidents selecting people who will be ideologically liberal, whereas when a Republican president picks one, it's a crapshoot whether or not they're going to actually be conservative and have conservative decisions. Now, you notice the vote was 53-47. 3 Republicans actually did vote for her, 3 rhinos. Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins both did, which frankly isn't that surprising. But also Mitt Romney did, which at this point isn't that surprising either. Mitt Romney now, basically it seems like his only purpose in being is to try to oppose Republicans as much as possible. Even though he is a Republican, he just wants to oppose Republicans. It's the same thing that happened near the end of John McCain's career, is that he just wanted to be known as somebody who opposed Republicans. And so I wonder if it has something to do with when you lose the presidential election as a Republican, you take it out on the Republican Party, the people who actually voted for you. I don't know. Okay, the next story I want to talk about is that 115 bodies of aborted babies were found in Washington, D.C. A group called the Progressive, what are they called? The Progressive Abortion Alliance. Let me get this right. The Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising. 2 members of their group said that they were at an abortion clinic on March 25th of this year, and they saw a medical waste truck outside, and somebody was an employee was putting boxes in it, and they approached him and they asked him if he knew what was in the boxes, and they told him it was dead babies, and he was shocked. And according to the pro-lifers, they were able to obtain the box, at least one of them, and it had the remains of 115 aborted babies. And now 5 of these were very late term, according to the pro-lifers. They're very late term. They're very large babies who had been aborted, and apparently their brains were sucked out. I apologize for the graphic description, but that's what abortion is. It's very graphic. And they had 110 of them. They gave to a priest who did give them a proper burial and mass for them, but 5 of them, the 5 largest ones, they kept, and I'm not quite sure, I wasn't quite sure reading the story why they kept them, but essentially I think they wanted to report them to police as murders. And ultimately what happened was they were arrested. The police now have possession of those 5 bodies, and it's unknown what's going to happen to those babies. And so this has gotten to be some news, but unfortunately, of course, the mainstream media is going to do everything it can to try to diminish the importance of this and what's going on here. But this is just the way abortion clinics work. I mean, for those of us who've been involved with pro-life work for a long time, every abortion clinic is shady. every abortion clinic is dirty. Every abortion clinic is evil in what it does, aside even from the fact that they're killing babies for a living. But that should tell you why we know they're all evil. If you literally kill babies for a living, which is what abortion clinics do, then of course you're going to do things in a shady manner. You have no moral compass. And so it's not surprising at all that they are doing this, because supposedly the medical waste company that they sent the dead babies' bodies to, supposedly they say, oh, we don't do babies' bodies. We only do other medical waste. Now, of course, the abortion clinic has to get rid of these babies' bodies somehow. So of course they're going to send them to the medical waste facility. Now, I know some Catholics are all trying to get up in arms, and they're clutching their pearls because of the fact that these women who obtained these bodies had them in their apartment. They're keeping their apartment as if they're somehow the bad guy. I mean, these are people who are trying to give them a proper burial. What, you'd rather the medical waste company dispose of them the way they do? Here are people who actually had respect for the dignity of their lives and treating them such. So I think that's just a case of, as usual, leftist Catholics trying to divert the issue from the real issue, which is babies are being killed every single day in this country. And it's the worst Holocaust in history, frankly. And it's the number one moral issue of our day. And let's not try to deflect the issue like the leftist Catholics do by saying things like, oh, what really matters is the fact that these women supposedly had the babies kept in their, I don't know, the refrigerator or something in their apartment. The real horror here is that the abortion clinic killing these babies and then sending them off with medical waste. Let's never forget that. In other news, Elon Musk bought a 9.2% share of Twitter, making him the largest single shareholder of the social media giant. And this is interesting because he's also was made part of the board of directors. And that's typical. If you become the largest shareholder, you're going to become part of the board of directors, which means he will have influence on the direction of Twitter. Now, the reason this is interesting is Elon Musk has expressed in the past that he is frustrated with the fact that Twitter censors a lot of people, that they ban different users for just crazy things, and they will get rid of them. And so the fact that he's now going to be a large influence in Twitter has raised the hopes of a lot of people that perhaps now Twitter will allow actual free discussion about things that they did not allow before, that we can now talk about transgenderism. We can talk about the war in Ukraine. We can talk about COVID policies and all that without fear that we might get blocked or banned. Now, let's be clear. Elon Musk is not a friend of Catholics. It's not like we should consider him somebody who is Catholic himself or friendly to Catholics. But the fact is he can still be an ally. He can be an ally to Catholics because of the fact if he allows more robust discussion on Twitter, that's a good thing. So we'll keep an eye on that and see what happens. In other news, Viktor Orban won a landslide re-election as Hungary's prime minister. And this is a big deal because the media is touting as he's pro-Putin, he's pro-Russia, and that's how they describe him. That's not at all. What Orban is he's pro-Hungary. He's a nationalist. He believes in doing what's best for his country. And this is a good thing. This is what we want. We want countries to be run by people who actually love their country and want what's best for them. And so the fact is he has not gone. Now remember, his country's borders Ukraine. It's right there. And so this is a big deal to them. And his people are pro-Ukrainian. They're on the Ukrainian side, but they're also very much against intervention, Hungary getting involved, because they know that's only going to end bad for Hungary. And it's not really going to help Ukraine either to do that. And so, and also Orban has said very explicitly, he's not going to buy the more expensive oil from America. He's going to keep getting it from Russia because his people need that. People will be starving. They will be cold. They will be out without heat if they don't get the oil from Russia. And so congratulations to Prime Minister Orban. And I hope that more people like him become leaders of their countries. In Catholic news, Father Earl Fernandez was named the next Bishop of Columbus. Now, normally we don't talk about just people who are named the next bishop. This happens all the time. But this is interesting for a few reasons. I actually have a personal connection here because Father Fernandez, Bishop-elect Fernandez, is a priest in the Archdiocese of Cincinnati where I live, and I know a lot of people who know him. They speak very highly of him, and they think very good of him. These are solid people I know who say very good things about Father Fernandez, Bishop-elect Fernandez. And in fact, he was the administrator for 2 years of a parish here in Cincinnati that celebrates the traditional Latin Mass on a daily basis. And he celebrated himself because obviously he was the administrator of the parish. He was the primary celebrant of it. And so the fact that a TLM celebrating priest was named a bishop, I think is news in today's church, considering what we've seen over the past year with Pope Francis doing everything he can to eliminate the traditional Latin Mass and to speak very poorly of it. The fact that I would call him a pro TLM. He's not. He is a Novus Ordo priest. It's not like he's exclusively the TLM. I don't think he even celebrates it very much anymore. But the fact is that he's sympathetic, at least to traditional Latin Mass, and he was named a bishop. I think that's a very good thing. And also, I think it tells us, pray for your next bishop. Pray for your bishop, obviously, but pray for your next bishop of your diocese. We've been doing this in Cincinnati for a while because our archbishop, is going to be reaching his retirement age of 75 next year. And so we've been praying for the next bishop, whoever it might be. And so I'd encourage people to do that. In other churches, Archbishop Vigano called for an investigation of Pope Benedict XVI's renunciation of the papacy and Pope Francis's election, the conclave that elected Pope Francis. And so this is kind of big news because obviously no real high-ranking official, church official has done this at this point. But honestly, it's not that surprising. I fear, and I'll just be blunt about this, I fear that within about 6 months, Archbishop Vigano will be either a sedi vacantinis or he will believe that Pope Benedict is the actual pope. He seems to be going this direction by his language and what he's saying. And so I think it's very plausible. In fact, he might already be there for all I know. Now, to be honest, an investigation of Pope Benedict's renunciation and the conclave isn't necessarily in theory a bad thing because hopefully it would help people understand and answer some questions. But I think it would end up being a mess because who would actually be part of this? What authority would they have? Pope Benedict XVI said very clearly he has renounced the papacy. He is not the Pope anymore. So, I mean, he wouldn't even accept it. Now, if you investigated the conclave, that could be a good thing. But again, it would probably be a mess ultimately. I think it's for a future Pope or a future council to do after Pope Francis has passed away or resigned or however he ends his papacy. Now, the last thing I want to talk about today is that Holy Week is approaching. Today is April 8th. It's the Friday of Passion Week of Lent. And so next week on starting Sunday, Palm Sunday, is Holy Week. This is the most important week of the year for Catholics. It's the most important year in the church. And it really should be a week that we treat differently than all other weeks of the year. Because now what we're going to do, we are entering into our Lord's Passion. We're entering into those events that led to our salvation, that brought about our salvation. And so I would really encourage people, go to Mass as much as you can next week. If your parish is having other services related to Holy Week, go to them if you can. If not, if you can't make it, do everything you can to say the prayers of the church in the divine office at home, if you can, and the prayers of the Mass, if you can't attend Mass. But it really is a week that we should treat very differently, and we should recognize we wouldn't be saved if not for the events of this week that we're celebrating. And so go to Palm Sunday Mass, obviously on Sunday, but also try to attend the Holy Thursday Mass, the Good Friday liturgy, Holy Saturday, Easter Vigil. Do everything you can to enter into this and have your whole family be part of it so they recognize what a big deal this is. Okay, well, that's it for this week. I won't be doing a weekly wrap-up next Friday, obviously, because it's Good Friday, but we'll come back in 2 weeks. Until next time, everybody, God love you.